And for more on the pandemic, I'm joined now by infectious disease specialist and ABC News contributor, Dr. Todd Ellerin. Dr. Ellerin, let's start with this record number of COVID deaths. More than 2,800 in the U.S. in just one day. The CDC director says brace for another 200,000 by February. How do we turn this around?
Good morning, Diane. This is so sobering. It literally pains my heart to think. And with these numbers, over 3,000 deaths in one day, that doesn't even have contribution from the Thanksgiving holiday. We're not going to see that effect for 3 weeks after Thanksgiving. So what we're seeing right now is from cases that were from 4 weeks ago, symptoms developing 3 weeks ago, hospitalizations developing 2 weeks ago, and deaths coming now and then reporting. So really, it's looking grim right now. And I really do think that for places in the country where their hospitals are nearing capacity, they really have to think about shutting down and shutting down quickly. And I mean shutdowns like we saw in the spring.
It sounds like we're within 2 weeks of having a vaccine approved in this country. Could that help?
Of course it's going to help, but it's not going to help right now. Remember, likely we will have tens of millions of people in the U.S. receive their first dose before the end of the year, but they still won't get their second dose until sometime in January. And then immunity typically takes 1 to 2 weeks after that second dose. So it's still a ways away. Immunity, we're going to see that in 2021. Right now, we really have to hunker down.
And all the more important, it seems, when you're so close to a vaccine, it feels like we just have a little bit longer in this fight. But on the vaccine front, why is it taking longer to get the vaccine approved here in the U.S. than it is in the U.K.?
Well, again, I want to say I think our FDA, the CDC, are doing an amazing job. There are some differences. The EMA, the European Medicines Agency, the FDA equivalent, they have access to the data of the companies a little bit earlier, and they don't require, they trust the data of their companies more so than we do, meaning the FDA is really working around the clock to scrutinize every piece of information from these clinical trials to make sure what the companies are describing are accurate. The other thing is that the European agency may have a little more flexibility in the specific time meetings, and also they don't have public consultation like we do here. But in any event, the EMA, the FDA, the CDC, these are all very well-respected agencies. I think it's great that the UK has approved, and we're likely going to approving in very short order.
That's right. Officials are saying in the next 2 weeks, hopefully. But I got some questions from viewers on Twitter that I also wanted to hit you with. One is, what happens if you already had COVID and you get the vaccine?
Okay, so we don't know that answer right now. It's an important question, but most likely nothing from a safety perspective, okay? Now, we're still going to learn that from some of the clinical trials, because remember, some of the people who entered the clinical trials did have COVID-19 but didn't know it. So they were antibody positive. We're expecting somewhere in the realm of about 10%. So we'll learn about what happens to those patients, but most likely nothing from a safety perspective. Whether the vaccine gives more immunity above and beyond the natural immunity that these patients already have, we're going to have to learn with time.
And another viewer, Chris, says that he was actually part of one of the vaccine trials, but he doesn't know if he got the placebo or the actual vaccine. So what happens to these people?
Right. Wow. I mean, this is really critical for many reasons, from an effectiveness perspective, ethics perspective. So both companies, both Pfizer and Moderna, want to be able to give their placebo patients the vaccine, but really they have to wait for the FDA and figure out, as part of the emergency use authorization, hopefully that will be, the companies will be given direction on what to do. See, it's possible that the FDA, in order to file that BLA, that biologics license application, to get that full FDA approval that we know takes at least 6 months, they may want to see differences still over time between the vaccine group and the placebo group. So this is going to be a tough decision for the FDA, but I'm sure the companies want to give the placebo group vaccine as quickly as possible. They should be the first ones to get the vaccine in our country.
Got it. And I also got a lot of questions about side effects, and not just today, but throughout the past few weeks. What do we know about that?
Okay, so there's no question there are going to be side effects. When you list all vaccines have side effects. Most have injection site reactions. The COVID-19 vaccines, at least the messenger RNA ones, they tend to be reactogenic. What does that mean? People can get fevers, muscle aches, joint pain. They can, get chills. Sometimes they can get high fevers. But remember, these typically don't last more than 12 to 24 hours. And we want these side effects because this means that the immune system is getting boosted, and this is what provides the ultimate amazing effectiveness. And I do want to say one thing, Diane. Just remember something. Right now, in the days ahead, we are seeing unprecedented, historic numbers of cases and hospitalizations and deaths. This is very reminiscent of 1918 and 1919. Remember, that plague of the century back in 1918, the most deadly waves were that fall wave and the winter wave. And the people that were physically distanced were masking the most. The communities that did shut down, at least partially, those were the ones that did the best. And I just don't want to see more Americans, more of us succumb to this virus, especially knowing that the COVID-19 vaccines are on the horizon.
And Dr. Eller, I just want to clarify one more thing, because there's so much misinformation out there, and a lot of people, when they hear that you can have side effects like a fever, for example, they think that means the vaccine gave you the virus. Can you clarify that?
This absolutely. These vaccines cannot give you COVID-19. These messenger RNA viruses, I want to think of it almost like bread that you're putting in a toaster, and what comes out is toast. Or you could think of it as flour. That's the ingredient right before you get to bread. So that's really what's happening. Usually we're used to hearing about giving protein vaccines like the spike protein. The reason the companies aren't doing this is because it's harder to scale up those protein vaccines on the scale that's necessary. Ultimately, what will be billions of doses of vaccine needed around the world. So by giving messenger RNA, they can churn this out so they can actually scale up to a level that will meet the demand that the world needs right now.
So those side effects that people are experiencing, that comes from your immune system. It doesn't come from the virus.
That's right. It's not the virus. It's just the immune system reacting to the vaccine. Basically, it's the messenger RNA, and then it's surrounded by a little fatty, like vacuole, a little fatty, it's called a liposome. And basically, that's reactogenic. The immune system reacts to that. And as the immune system is building up, it's actually directing the antibodies against that protein that's been produced, and that's what gets this amazing effectiveness and doesn't allow the virus to enter the cells, so we become protected. If you think of a house on fire, that fire is the virus, and basically we can use our therapeutics to try to put out the fire, but it's better to be able to have us armored in a fireproof outfit where we can walk into the house that's on fire and not get the virus. That's what the vaccine allows for.
All right, Dr. Todd Eller, always great to have you. Thank you.
Take care, Diane.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.